Jerry, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's still like to be here.
What is radical self-inquiry?
So you mean aside from a clever marketing term, right?
Exactly.
It's a term that I coined to describe this process. And formally what I say is it's the process by which the delusions and the personas that we carry are stripped away with compassion and with love. But really it's a way of describing approaching oneself in a way that strips down to the bare essence of who am I really? What am I carrying? And so it's a form of kind of cutting through with key questions. Questions like, what do I believe to be true about the world?
Right. And what do you say to someone who says, I don't want to do that? I just want to fix the current issue.
Be my guest. I have no problem with that. Just do me a favor. Don't take a job managing people.
So what if one of your CEO clients says that to you?
Then they're not my client.
Interesting. Okay.
Because here's the thing. People reach out. So if they're a client, they're reaching out because they're struggling. Nobody hires a coach because everything's going great.
Sure.
Right? We hire a coach because we either want to get better from where we are, or we hire a coach because we're struggling and we can't figure things out. And so, to me, those questions implicit in that statement, radical self-inquiry, that's the means by which we're supposed to actually grow up and learn how to lead better.
Got it.
So if you don't want to go there, you know, my friend and teacher Parker Palmer says, the unexamined life is not worth living. But if you choose to live the unexamined life, please don't take a job that involves people. And he's right with that. Because that's what happens, is the unexamined life leads us to sort of do damage to people all around us.
What if someone is scared to go there? They're like, I don't want to know who I really, really am.
Then that is perfectly understandable.
Okay.
Right? So when you say, what if someone is scared to go there? Well, everyone's scared to go there.
Sure.
Right? So first we acknowledge that people are scared to go there. And then we, you know, as a coach, what I would do is sort of gently guide them to a place like that. Little at a time, a little at a time, a little at a time. But what I often say, and I'll quote someone else, Carl Jung, he said, the treasure you seek is in the back of the cave. Way in the back.
Right.
And the key is the treasure you seek.
Yeah.
Which are oftentimes the answers to the problems that you're carrying around. So it's okay to say, I'm scared to go back there. It really is. But the growth you're seeking, the relief you're seeking, that's way in the back there.
It's not coincidence that what you're looking for is the same thing that I'm looking for. It's probably what everyone's looking for. And this feeling of you're not alone. And leaders or CEOs, by the very fact that they're CEOs, they sort of are alone, right? In terms of their company, they often have to project strength when things may be a little bit shaky. They're trying to convince their VCs everything's going well. They're holding a lot of stuff together. How do they balance the you're not alone with the you kind of?
Well, you're making two observations. One is the universality of the feeling that we are in fact alone.
Right.
And one of the things, you know, I have this reputation for making people cry. You experience this occasionally.
I have indeed.
And one of the ways I make people cry isn't just to ask them, how are you? My infamous question. But another is to just look them in the eye as they're talking about their struggles and let them know that they're not alone. Because we carry so much of that sense of isolation. Now, let me make a comment about that. The reason we have the sense that we are alone is that we're socialized not to talk about difficulties.
Yeah.
And so we think, we get wrapped up in our mind, I'm the only one who feels like an imposter. Well, that's absurd. Right. I'm the only one who doubts myself, right? I'm the only one. Worse still, enhancing the isolation is when we recognize that we are, say, carrying the imposter syndrome, we then use that as a source of self-criticism. What's wrong with me that I have this imposter syndrome? And then we're on this merry-go-round of just feeling completely isolated. So that's thing one. Thing two, let's talk about leadership and structure. Shakespeare said in Henry V, upon the king, let us our lives, our souls, our debts lay upon the king. O hard condition, we must bear all. This is the unfortunate part of being a CEO. There is a structural problem. So how do we deal with that? Well, two things. One is to realize that there are a whole bunch of other CEOs walking around with that feeling.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges in the tech community is that, again, we're socialized to bullshit.
Yeah.
To not actually talk about the things that we struggle with.
Yeah.
I defy you to find a CEO of a venture-backed company who hasn't struggled to raise money.
At some point.
At some point, even if it's the series, the seed round, the A round, and struggle may be just to fight. Struggle may be to question themselves. Struggle may be just not to get the deal that they're looking for. But we don't talk about that. We only talk about unicorns and nonsense like that. Right? The second thing is structurally, when a CEO convinces themselves that they are supposed to have all the answers, that that's why they have the power, they further isolate themselves.
Yeah.
They create unscalable organizational structures, and they put themselves at the top of some mythological pyramid where they're supposed to carry the emotional burdens of everybody. Oh, hard condition, we must bear all. And it's all a game.
Yeah.
Your job as a CEO is to build an amazing team and give them the opportunity to do the best work of their lives. That's your job.
Yeah.
That's what you've been hired to do. That's what you've been given money to do. If you hire the best people, guess what?
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Right.
Right? And part of being best people is hiring a bunch of leaders around you with whom you can share that burden. And again, that's not the message that we send. We have this myth of the lone wolf CEO, founder, who has figured out all the answers and, walk through walls and walks on water, and nobody does that.
No. There's a CEO that I want you to meet this evening.
You want me to coach them?
Maybe, but she's amazing. She started a meditation company, which she will show you, but she just wrote about why she started that. And she realized she was having anxiety and panic attacks, but she's like, I can't have panic attacks. I'm a national level basketball player.
Right.
And she, it was beautiful, but she's one of those who's actually said, actually, I am having panic attacks, and that is not a sign of weakness. I just need to figure out what's causing the underlying anxiety.
Right.
And sort through it. And that's what led her to start a whole company.
Right.
Focuses on being present.
Right. So you asked me before what radical self-inquiry is. That's radical self-inquiry. Right? Yeah. That's going to the back of the cave and retrieving from that cave. Yeah. Right? The scary part was to walk into the cave and for her to be able to admit out loud that she struggles. Just even to herself. Yeah. But the treasure is the realization that the reason that the company was so important was personal.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful.
It is.
It's like when we launch our businesses for intellectual reasons only, and then we struggle, we're going to lose a source of inspiration. Yeah. We're going to lose a source of energy.
Yeah. This is why what we invest in is mission-driven entrepreneurs.
Because what happens when they struggle?
The mission carries them through.
That's right.
Past.
That's right. And the challenge that I would put to them is to make sure that the mission that compels them and allows them to build a great team doesn't then fuel a relentless questioning of their worthiness.
Right.
Because when you marry your sense of self to the mission, that's dangerous.
It is. It can work in both ways.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
Tell me about the warrior.
Yeah. So the warrior is an image that came to me through one of my Buddhist teachers in the Buddhist lineage that I have studied in. And it's a very simple image to hold on to. The warrior stands with a strong back, but an open heart.
Yeah.
And I think that this is an incredibly powerful image for a leader to hold on to, is I am not crouched in a defensive posture all the time, aggressive, but I stand as if I have the right to exist on this planet. Like I often say, the royal right to exist.
Yeah.
But I am unafraid to be true and authentic and vulnerable and real. And that's that open heart.
Yeah.
Let me give you another exploration of that. I often think about a container.
Yeah.
To me, the strong back of the warrior is the glass.
Right.
The open heart is the content. A glass that has no water in it is purposeless.
Right.
But water without the glass is useless.
Right.
And so the warrior leader needs both. And a lot of people will pause and they'll do what you just did. That makes sense. And then they sit there and they say, but that's hard.
It is hard.
And it is hard.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it purposeful.
Yeah.
Right? Can we build great companies that are fiscally sound, durable, persistent, that at the end of the day we make more money than we had at the beginning of the day?
Right.
Right? Simple but hard work. Can we do that in a way that doesn't hurt the planet, doesn't hurt the community, doesn't hurt our employees, and in fact fosters love, safety, and belonging?
Yeah.
Well, if we can do that, well then, boy howdy, isn't that cool?
Right. Yeah.
That feels like a mission that's worth signing up for.
Yeah. You know, one of the things you said to me at Reboot that I didn't see in the book, but there were elements of it, is the crack is how the light gets in.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you, I mean, is that part of the radical self-inquiry when people say, you know, through this process, I feel broken, or I'm flawed in some fashion?
Yeah. I'm going to mangle the quote. The quote is from Leonard Cohen, who says, there's a beautiful line about how the crack in the bell is how the light gets in. And what you're really referring to in that regard is the notion that our wounds, our cracks, our challenges are in fact the source of our strength.
Yeah.
Too often we're socialized to believe that that's the source of our shame. And, you know, the subtitle of the book is Leadership in the Art of Growing Up, because part of the art of growing up and becoming an adult is to honor the wounds, is to recognize that they are the things that shape us and define us. And that even if we grow up, you know, as I did, in poverty or with shame, that can be a source of incredible strength.
Right.
And in my case, a source of overwhelming empathy.
Yeah.
And that is the source of the light. That is the source of the strength. And so your CEO that you were referring to, that anxiety is probably rooted in a wound. And if we allow the exploration of the wound so that the wound can heal and become sacred and a source of great leadership strength. It's what I often think of as I'm always a fan of Marvel and DC, and they all have superpowers, and all the superpowers have the dark side associated with them.
And they all come from something in their
wound.
Yes.
They all. You were going to say something in their childhood. In their childhood.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason for that is those are our modern myths. They take direct cue from the Greeks, the Romans, other cultures. The gods are all wounded.
Yeah.
That's the message.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about good grit and bad grit.
Yeah.
I hadn't broken it down that way, but I always said, like, come on, the inner critic is useful.
Yeah.
The inner critic, exactly what you said, like, drives us.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
why I've not been able to do what I've been able to do.
Right.
Because, you know,
Right.
there's this constant. But when you broke it out as good grit and bad grit,
Right.
it was really interesting. So,
Well, what the terms I actually use are true and false grit.
oh, true and false.
And the reason for making that distinction is that I think that false grit is the problem. False grit is a message that we send out. False grit, as I say in the book, is brittle. False grit says you should persist even when you know you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's
Not
strength, right? False grit sends a message that you shouldn't feel hurt if you get punched in the face.
Right.
Well, I box. Getting punched in the face sucks, okay?
Right.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stubborn.
Right.
That's not strength. True grit is the capacity to withstand, to recover, to be resilient in the face of challenges. And what is the resiliency? The resiliency isn't about a kind of false, I'm going to stick to my guns. It's, I may have suffered a setback, but my company doesn't suck.
Right.
My team is still a good team, and I am still a good leader.
Yeah.
Right? That's
the,
grit.
It's the line you said where you may feel like shit, but that doesn't mean
That's
you are
it.
shit.
That's it. You know,
like it's
I can
great.
almost guarantee you will feel like
Right.
shit.
Right.
It's just that, and if you will feel like shit, then if you're shit, then everybody's walking around feeling like
Right.
shit. Everybody's walking around as
Yeah.
shit, and that's just not true,
Yeah.
right? And even in that, there's a true grittiness to realizing that it's hard, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Yeah.
That's grit.
Right. So yet another thing that resonated with me was the 3 questions.
Mm.
You know, and part of it is because about a month ago, I addressed that first question.
Mm.
What is not being said? What are you not saying?
And you
I
addressed
said
it to yourself.
I raised it and I realized what I was not saying.
Mm.
And I said it.
Mm. Notice what's happening in your body right now.
Yeah.
You can still feel it.
I can still feel the stress. And it was something about performance, right?
Right.
And we had a whole team. We all wrote self-evaluations. We shared it with each other and gave feedback to each other as a group.
Mm.
It was incredibly hard, but probably the best thing we've ever done.
Because you said what needed to be said.
We said what needed to be said. Everyone said what needed to be said. And we set some ground rules. And everyone said it. We established that the intent here was kind.
Right.
And caring.
Right.
And in order to help the other person.
Right.
We said stuff that I could not imagine being said in a business setting. Right? I think you're bad at this. Or I think you are not performing at your level. Things that are really hard to say. And they were said and they were accepted as I agree or I see your point. And everyone, whether they were wherever they were on, whether they were doing better than expected or not, walked away from that meeting with a renewed sense of, purpose, a feeling of camaraderie, and a feeling of hope,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because on a scale of 1 to 10, no, forget the scale. Did trust go up, down, or stay the same?
Way up.
The thing about trust, see, a lot of times people will call us in or call me in and say, we're having trouble with trust. And I joke and I say, well, are you telling the truth? Right. And oftentimes people don't outright lie.
Yeah.
But you made a point about one thing that was said that, was like one to another person. I don't think you're doing a good job doing this. Okay. Here's the truth. The feeling that that person had about, like, I don't think you're doing a good job was being conveyed.
Yeah. It was exactly.
Everyone knew.
Yeah, and both those people knew, and the person who
But nobody's talking about it.
No one's talking about it. That's exactly right.
And so what happens is I'm sitting there making up stories about that. And I'm walking around carrying that.
Yeah.
And when the words that we say and the feelings that we convey do not match, we destroy trust.
Yeah.
So I may know that you're angry with me, but when I say, how are you feeling? And you say, I'm fine.
Right. Great.
I'm great.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't trust you.
Right.
Now, part of the reason is you're trying to protect my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what wound am I walking around with that needs protection from someone else?
Right.
Because if I'm an adult,
yeah,
responsible for my inner well-being, it may be painful, but I should be able to hear what you have to say to me.
Yeah.
Because those are the other two questions,
Right.
right? What am I not hearing that's being said, and what am I not hearing?
Right.
Or and what's being said?
What am I not hearing?
Right.
I want to come back to what I thought was like the most, for me, one of the most meaningful, the handprints on the cave.
Is this where you cried?
Well, I cried through the whole thing. I cried at the beginning, I cried in the middle.
There's a warning label on the book.
I cried at the acknowledgments. I cried through the whole thing. You talk about lying under the stars and kind of examining, what is the meaning? And you went from wanting to be richer than Bill Gates to basically wanting your life to have meaning, to be remembered or to have left a mark.
Yeah.
Is that true for everybody? To leave a handprint. Is that where everybody is? Because that's definitely, before I got to that section, I actually wrote that down and I'll show it to you. And it says, why does it matter that I was here?
Right. Does everyone carry that? I'm not sure. But I think that most of us want... See, in the book I talk about the fact that we're driven in pursuit of love, safety, and belonging. Mm-hmm. And I think the corollary to that is, if I can love and be loved, if I can feel safe, existentially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and if I then know that I belong, then when I pass, I'll know that I have mattered. Mm. There's always this sort of almost joke associated with, what is the meaning of life, And I think it's to actually know that you mattered. Yeah. It's the wish to know that it's kind of the opposite of the notion of annihilation. Annihilation is a psychological condition where, when we were kids and we would pretend, la la la, I don't see you, you don't exist.
Okay.
Well, there's no more disturbing feeling to the sense of belonging than to think that you're gone. You're gone. Yeah. Right? And so I do think it's part of the human condition to say, I was here and I fucking mattered and I made a difference.
Right.
And then I can pass.
Yeah. And is that in the relationships? Because, you come to, was I kind and was I loving?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Because, you're on Twitter and you read I want to be the person with the highest number of IPOs. I want to be and you're like, okay, do you think in 50 years that's going to matter? It might be on Wikipedia, but beyond that.
I'll draw from the book that in the last chapter I speak about stumbling across this toppled over oak tree. Mm-hmm. I have this profound relationship with trees. And in that, and seeing that toppled over oak tree, I project into that, here lies a good man.
Right.
And in that reverie, I talk about the fact that tree's limbs were stretched by kindness and by acts that they weren't necessarily proud of. But that regardless, they spent 75, 100 years growing into a sense of purpose. And what was that purpose? To shelter other beings.
Right.
That's how I want to go. That's how I want to be known. In a sense, maybe even the book is one of those efforts. When the paperback galleys, the uncorrected proofs of the book came out, I haven't told anybody this story. I came to my house and there was a big box. And I looked at the box. I was like, what the fuck did I order on Amazon today? And then I looked again and I realized, actually, it said HarperCollins on it. It's like, oh. And I opened the box, and I burst into tears. And I took out the book, the first book, and I smelled it. Because I needed that tactile experience. So many books in my life have been like pebbles in a forest when I've been lost.
Right.
And I got to put my book as a pebble in the forest for someone else to find.
Right.
So to go back, that's my handprint.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody's going to like my book. What's wrong with them? But I mattered.
Yeah.
I didn't just pass through. And so I think that's a handprint.
Yeah. It is more than love and kindness. You know, the book or a film, or there is something that exists that people can find you. In the book, they can really find you.
Right.
In 50 years or 100 years.
Right. Well, tell me about, what does it mean to make a film that moves people?
Right.
My oldest son, Sam, was 29, and he for the first time, me for the second, were just watching Moonlight. Right. Look at the face.
Yeah.
Right? Moonlight.
Yeah.
Art matters.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
Words matter. Wars have been fought, loves have been made, lives have been lost because of words.
Yeah.
Right? Art matters. So, and the artists who struggle to bring forth that, and there we even see our companies as art.
Yeah.
We make a difference in that way.
I feel like we need a longer conversation, but on the
We
art
will
piece,
have it.
We will. I just started, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I just said on Twitter, hey, I'm taking 10 people to go see The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw that you said that.
Yeah, only 2 people I knew. The 8 other people were completely random.
Oh.
And people were like, you're going to see a movie with people you don't know? And I'm like, yeah. And then we went to dinner.
I was so jealous.
Where
I
the
was going to
producer
fly
joined us.
here.
Yeah. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
Like someone wrote to me 6 weeks later saying, I still think about that evening. Yeah. And so I'm going to do this where the next event is getting a private tour of the Warhol exhibit. Because I think art matters, and I don't think we spend enough time thinking about it.
The irony here is that we sit around and we say, well, how can I be innovative? How can I be creative and spontaneous? Well, duh.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent part of my morning walking through the City Lights bookstore. Right?
Yeah.
And then just like, I need that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. It's like,
yeah.
Stop, Jerry.
Because you are going somewhere else before you go home. So.
And I have a mountain of unread books.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. They were great questions. All right.